Welcome to the Spirited Actor Podcast with me, Tracey Moore. You know, I feel super, super blessed because I have the most wonderful people in my life. And I want to give a shout out to my friend, Patrick Riley, who I love dearly. Patrick has given me the introduction to our guest today and I am overwhelmed. I am so excited because you guys know how much I love Broadway. I love TV and film, but Broadway is my love. And this veteran Broadway actor has done one of my favorite Broadway shows, Jelly's Last Jam, which I had the pleasure of going to the Tony Awards to see. Yes, and Tanya Pinkins has been on our show as well. So I just want all of you guys to stand up and put your hands together for Broadway veteran actor Stanley Wayne Mathis. Yay!
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Tracey. I appreciate you.
Oh my God. I don't say appreciate, I say appreciate love, but I appreciate love you because when I had the pleasure of reading probably a point of your life history, you have accomplished so much. And I'm so excited to get to know you in this interview as well. So let's start here because Stanley, I moved here in 1983 from San Francisco, California, because my love is to direct Broadway. And I snuck into a lot of Broadway shows at the second act. I would just merge with the intermission crowd and find a seat. So I know all the second acts, but I am, Broadway to me is perfection, is absolutely perfection. Tell us how you started as an actor in general and how you made your way to Broadway.
Well, Tracey, I came to New York in 1983 also.
Get out of here. From where?
From Washington, D.C. That's where I was born and raised. From Washington, D.C., not very far away, but it took me long enough to get up here.
Wow.
And so, I was in a theater company, semi-theater, professional theater company in D.C. I'd done children's theater. I couldn't seem to get into any of the top theaters in D.C., Arena Stage. I couldn't get around. I couldn't get into any of those. I think I did Arena Stage years after I had been in New York, and the show I was in moved to Arena from Good Speak House. But I packed up my little bags, like the Beverly Hillbillies, and
me too.
Came on up to New York, tried to make a go at it.
and did very well, ladies and gentlemen.
It took me, and I tell my students this all the time, I say, look, it took me 8 years to get my first Broadway show. Don't get it twisted. I know you all are used to things happening instantaneously, because of technology and whatnot. But it took me 8 years to get the first Broadway show. Once that door was open, it was open.
Yeah,
it's kind of how this business works,
right?
Once you're christened, and we know who you are, then you're in the database, basically.
That's right. As a casting director, that's the same thing with TV and film.
Exactly.
The rotation of people. You are considered a triple threat, ladies and gentlemen: actor, singer, and dancer. Just, the history, because I just think there's a tremendous discipline in theater, just in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, when you got in, what was that first show that got you in? And then how did you maintain? Because, I tell actors all the time, you're talking 8 shows a week, man.
Yeah.
That's stamina.
I brought that discipline with me. I had been, like I said, I'd been in a theater company for 5 years. Everything comes through theater company. Artistic director Harry Poe, may he rest in peace. We were very disciplined. We rehearsed and worked from 6 to 10, 5 days a week, all year round. We were really like how dance companies do. They rehearse.
Yeah.
We do 4 or 5 productions throughout the year. That's kind of the way, that was the route that we went. So, and we weren't getting paid really. So you were definitely there because you wanted to be there.
Right.
And so I brought that discipline along with me when I got to New York. My first Broadway show was called Okay. It was a revival of a 1926 musical that took place in Long Island about bootleggers.
Oh, wow.
And the director, choreographer, Dan Soretta, set it in Harlem in the 1920s instead, with an all-black cast starring Brian Stokes Mitchell, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
First time I worked with Brian. Yeah, I know.
Legendary.
It's insane. Yeah. And so that was my first go round. It wasn't a long run.
But it was enough to get you noticed, right?
I got great reviews. I was not the lead,
right,
actor and stuff like that. But you just never know how the universe is going to put you out there.
Right.
And so I came away with that show, even though it was very short-lived, with great reviews. And so I had this whole reputation as this song and dance man. I'm an actor. I'm really an actor's actor. But thanks to Harry Poe, who insisted that everybody in that company, he was like, you going to sing and dance whether you can sing and dance or not. I could care less.
Wow.
And here we going to do all of it. And that's what I mean when I brought that discipline with me.
Right. I mean, you had to, because that discipline is not something that you could, gain once you step foot in New York. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to have also the love and the passion, because, when I came to New York, I was like, theater. And they were like $35. And I was like, what? How am I going to live? I can't live. And it was so disheartening to me, because I wanted to plant my feet in theater. But then at the time, music videos were just this whole new world of like mini short films. And I got caught up in that, which led me to television and film and casting. But the love, you have to have the passion. What was that? Because that's something that I think a lot of actors I come in contact with today are missing. There's this immediate gratification to be famous, to get rich, and like you said, it doesn't happen when you start out.
Understand that, and especially Broadway, that's commerce. It's a business. And I think maybe that with the younger generation, the focus is more on that. Mm-hmm. That's the business, but your craft, your art is your business. Okay?
I wish I could clap.
That's your business to look after, to nourish, to make sure that it develops in a way that you can walk away and say, yeah, I did that. I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of my body of work. I did that. Art and commerce don't always mix. Sometimes it's very commercial. Yeah. And it's paying you a lot of money and it's paying the bills. And you're like, okay, I didn't go to school for this, just to say, do this 1 or 2 lines with a mug to the screen. But hey, they're going to pay me all this money. That's one thing. But then when it comes time for you to bring your A game, you best have your A game intact.
I love it, Stanley.
Because that's a missed opportunity if you don't have that together.
Right.
So it's fine, ain't nothing going on but the rent. I get all those sentiments.
Right.
And I do tell my students too, get paid for your work, but you also have to work to get paid.
Ooh, Stanley.
Get it twisted.
I love that.
And so I worked my behind off by the time I got that first Broadway show. I auditioned for Dream Girls, Tap Dance Kids, Sophisticated Ladies, Ain't Misbehaving. At the time I had come in, there were all these black shows on Broadway. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, August Wilson.
So I was auditioning my patootie off. Yeah. And I would get callbacks 3 and 4 times and then get cut. I couldn't land a job to save my life. I did not go to a prestigious school. I didn't go to Yale. I didn't go to Princeton. I didn't even go to Howard, although people assume that because I was from D.C. Right. I didn't go to Howard. I went to a little city college.
Which goes to show, it matters.
You really got to work extra, because you're going up against that. And when the elders used to say to me, it's who you know in this business, I really didn't understand until long into it. I was like, that's what they mean. This business is about relationships.
Yes.
Your relationship with Patrick, 25, 27 years. This business is about relationships.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you can be the most talented person on this planet. But unless some people know you,
That's
you know,
right.
You know, or they can get 5 people who are equally as talented. The only thing that's going to make the difference, besides maybe what you look like or whatever, is if there's somebody in that room that you have a relationship with, be it the casting director. To me, I don't understand the importance of casting directors. Be it a casting director, be it the writer, be it the choreographer, be it the director, somebody in that room. If you happen to walk in there looking like somebody, looking like the director's ex-wife that he just divorced and it was a nasty divorce, that could be dicey.
Yes,
Very subjective. You know, but if they look at your resume and see that you went to the same school or you studied at the same acting studio, that starts a conversation and a rapport, and you can relax a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
This business is about relationships, so I do tell my students, along with do get paid, but do build relationships. I said, look at the person that's sitting next to you on both sides, and look at the person sitting behind you. Those are going to be your casting directors, your choreographers, your writers, so forth and so on. And there we go.
That's right.
So don't poo-poo these relationships in this classroom. Start networking today.
Absolutely. No, you made such a great point. I remember I was casting a show and this guy came in and he looked just like my brother. Just like my brother, right? So when he came in, I said, "Oh my God, you look just like your brother." So we're friends now after all these years,
hard
right?
To get past that. Yeah,
but he said his agent, when he left, he called his agent and said, "The casting director said I look just like her brother." He said, "Well, did you find out if she loves her brother?" So
that's true.
And he told me that years after we became friends. But you're absolutely right. My relationships stem I've been in New York 38 years. So that's how long I have some of these relationships with actors, because I knew them from the embryo stages of their careers.
So
that's a really, really super important point.
Here's how I got that first Broadway show, though. I was working, I started doing regional up at Goodspeed Opera House in Connecticut. And I worked with Dan Soretta, the director, who had done a piece that Richard Wesley, playwright, had written called Dream Team. And he loved my work from that. And from that, all of a sudden, here comes OK. And he calls me up and he says to me, "When's the last time you've been in tap class?" Well, I actually hadn't been in tap class in a long time because I just could not afford the acting, the singing, the voice class, and the tap and the dance. Something had to go, so I let go of the tap class. I said, "Dude, I ain't been in tap class like a year." He said, "Well, get your behind in the tap class because I want you in this show." That's how I got in. That's how I got my first Broadway show. So it was that relationship. It was that connection.
Yes.
That didn't have anything really to do with the Broadway system as it is. This happened outside of that, and he brought me into the system, into the room.
And take us to the journey all the way to, you spoke very casually about Book of Mormons, but we all know that is an award-winning show.
Well, it's funny because I remember when they were auditioning for it. This was before it had come to Broadway. They were auditioning for it, and they sent me a part of the script, a piece of script. It wasn't all of it, and then they had all these clauses that you couldn't talk about it yet. These things they do now. That's because I was like, that was just not done 30 years ago. But and I read for General Butt Effing Naked. That was yes. It's hard. Well, it's South Park, baby. And if you know South Park, they go for the jugular. They don't.
Yes, they do.
And I looked at it and I read it and I was like, what is going on here? What is this dude? Wait, what is his name and what is he saying? So I went in, I did the little audition and I walked away. As I have learned to do after all these years. It's like, look, blood on the floor, leave the room. Leave it there.
What?
Let it go.
Right?
Let it go. You've done your thing. Don't sit by the phone. Don't go through all that. Just don't take it. So I didn't give it another thought. Next thing I know, it was on Broadway. Good. Okay. It's getting all this press. At the time, I was in a show called Nice Work If You Can Get It. with Kathleen Marshall, another director, choreographer, who's looked after me throughout my career. I've done like 3 shows with this lady.
Wow.
And she called me in, and she had her people call and say, Stanley, Kathleen doesn't really need to see you. She loves you, but the producers want to see you. Is it okay that you come? I was like, yeah, it's what I do. What time you want me there?
Right.
So I showed up and I did, and I got cast. And nice work if you can get it. And trust me, it was nice work if you can get it. That was a sweet track. You hear me? It was a sweet track. I think, I did a little soft shoe step touch with the rest of the cast. I wasn't doing any more than the rest of the cast had to do for the finale. And I was on and off, that character is on and off stage. Come on, do a scene, leave. Come on, I was like the chief of police. So I was always arresting people or trying to arrest somebody. Mm-hmm. A song with the 2 leads called Let's Call the Whole Thing Off. And that was it. That was the gig.
Right.
Like, I'm cruising after all these years. Hallelujah. And so as that contract was about to end, here comes Book of Mormon. Michael Potts, who was playing the role that I ended up taking over, was leaving to do HBO for a while. And they needed somebody to come in and sit in for him for a couple of months, like 3 months, while he was doing that project. He originated this role. He did the workshop and everything. So they were good to him. Thank goodness. And so they called me in, and at first I turned it down because what was it? There was some reason why either I didn't have an out or something. My age, I was like, so I don't have an out in this show or something. So I was like, well, then this is all mute. There's no even point going through this because we can't get out of the contract. So it passed, and I once again let it go. Right. It comes back around again, but this time it comes back around. I think my contract ended with nice work. I think like March the 29th or something like that, and I opened in the Book of Mormon on March the 31st.
Wow, day after my birthday.
Yeah, so I was doing it. It's the first time in my entire career I was rehearsing a show during the day while performing one at night. I'd never done that. So that was like a hit trick.
I can't even imagine.
By the time I got to opening night of Book of Mormon, I was like, what theater am I in?
Right, exactly.
So they did tell me to come see the show. I had seen the show, and I love South Park. I get them. I get them.
Me too.
They don't.
Since the beginning.
I get them. They just don't bother me. People get all twisted and all bent out for whatever their reasons are. They have their reasons. But I got what they were going for, and I understood exactly what they were going for. A lot of people saw the show. A lot of Black people saw it and did not like it. They really hated it. Wow. They did not like it because, first of all, you have to understand satire. Right. You have to understand political satire.
Exactly.
And also, if you have no connection, if you've not at least watched South Park, then you have no idea where they're coming from. You just so it can seem blatantly racist. Yeah. But the point of their whole thing, of them dragging a zebra across the stage and saying, 80% of us have AIDS and all of that kind of foolishness, is that they were making a mockery of Western civilization, how we perceive Africa, not as Africa actually is. So they were actually saying to Americans and Westerners and Europeans, get yourself together.
That's right.
You're screwed. That's right. Not all of this is your perception. None of this is true. All of this is stereotype. And that's what they were playing with. Right. But Black people, you have to understand, we have, after 400 plus years, we're triggered. We're easily triggered.
Easily.
Traumatized.
Because we're still traumatized.
We're traumatized.
You know what I mean? Generationally.
16, 19. And we ain't dealt with that trauma, much less the trauma of today. So that's a lot of trauma. So it don't take much for us to jump off.
That's right. That's right. And I thought that when it first came out, I mean, I've been a South Park fan since it first came out. Like, that's I have a very off type of sense of humor. But I did read, some of when it first came out, some of the reviews and how people reacted to it. But, in the end, controversy sells, I think slowly people started to understand, satire and maybe that was, the great part of opening up that to people who had never maybe experienced that artistical journey before, but a brilliant play.
But I would tell my friends, I've had people call me up and say, I got an audition for Mufala in the Book of Mormon. What do you think? And I'm going, dude, don't kid yourself. If you can't say God and the F word in the same sentence, this ain't the show for you.
That's right.
It's just not the show for you.
Yeah.
The week or a year, this is not the show for you. Make sure you understand and are able to make peace with that material before you take this on. Otherwise, I would tell you, pass it. Pass.
Yeah. Yeah, and because not everything is right for everybody. I've always wanted to ask this question just for me, but for our audience, as a Broadway actor, again, you have 8 shows a week. I was really blessed to coach an actress in Color Purple, the one that Oprah produced. And I was even more blessed to, go to the rehearsals. And you're doing, students will say, the same show over and over, every night. How does that feed your soul? How does that feed your spirit? Well, for me, again, this is just in my opinion, Broadway is perfection. And so you have the opportunity to pull from your audience the energy. I'm sure you get different energies every night. Maybe one line that worked one night doesn't work the other night. And as an ensemble, you have to make those adjustments and shift. What keeps you going as a Broadway actor doing 8 shows a week?
Well, that point that you made is a very good point. It's never the same audience. And acting is about reacting. It's about listening.
Ooh.
So when Tanya Pinkin said something to me in Jelly's last jam that she said differently the night before, I picked that up. I think of even when it's not a musical, I think of acting, I think of plays as it being scored. Every word, every pause, every beat is scored. If you don't hit the right note, throws everything off.
Yeah, it throws everything off. Yeah, absolutely.
So you really have to be present and you have to listen. Now that's easier said than done.
Right.
But look, when the mind, body, and spirit, sometimes spirit just says, you know what? You stay here. I'm finna take a little vacation. I need a break. I'm leaving. I'm going to the Bahamas. I'll be back in a few secs. But I need to step out for a minute.
Right.
There's really nothing you can do about that.
Right.
Well, that's where discipline comes in. That's why rehearsal is important. Discipline is important. The intimacy built between you and your cast members is important, because they can look in your eyes and tell if you're in trouble.
Yes. Believe me, there's a way to signal.
If they're there for you, they're there for you.
Right.
And vice versa. So that's just human nature. You are not built to experience the same exact experience the same way every day. That's not how you're built. That's why it's called a craft. That's why it's called acting.
Oh my God, Stanley, I am your new best friend, for real. I love you. And this interview flew by. We have 5 minutes. I am so sad, but I want to talk about your playwright debut of Preachin To The Choir and Unconventional Truth. Can you tell us what that is about?
Well, Preachin To The Choir was something that I wrote when I got back from the tour of Book of Mormon and had all this time on my hands and became addicted to Facebook. You get addicted to Facebook, you get addicted to those posts. Good and bad. Bad in that I was experiencing trauma after trauma after trauma of Black people being brutalized by police, shot, killed, tased, our men, our our children, our women, our elders. They didn't care what age you were. They just didn't care. The brutality was constant. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? How do I process this trauma? And I started to write. I hadn't written since I'd moved to New York. I used to write all the time in D.C., but I hadn't written since I moved to New York. And so I started writing. And I had written, the next thing I knew, I had over 200 poems. I go, okay, Stanley, you've written over 200 poems. And now what?
Wow.
And the Spirit said, you're going to write this play. And so I love using American idioms and American sayings that we all grew up with in this country, that it doesn't matter what you are, Buddhist, Muslim, Jewish, whatever, from the South, from the North. We all know, everybody knows wade in the water.
Yes.
We've all heard the expression, you preaching to the choir.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's the first thing that came to me, preaching to the choir, because I wanted to be a conversation by us, between us, without the permission, as Toni Morrison would say, the blue-eyed gaze. We're not asking your permission on this.
Right.
We're just going to be unapologetically Black, and we're going to talk about these issues, but we're going to talk about them from a healing standpoint. So we're going to go back in time. We're going to do all of that because we need to heal. Nobody's coming to save us, Black people. We're going to have to save ourselves.
Amen. Amen. So how can we and this audience join you on this Zoom event? Because I want to be there.
Well, if you go on my Facebook page.
All right, listen, everybody.
It's PTTC, Preachin To The Choir, PTTC, and you will see the poster, and it'll give you the Eventbrite link to go in and make reservations for the tickets. It's on September the 13th. 30. It's a Monday night, and it's free, but you have to make reservations.
So I know my whole crew, we're all going to be there because after we finish today, I'm getting my invitation. And, you are a true blessing, Stanley. Like, I love when we have guests on the show that are as experienced as you are, but that have the depth of spirit and soul and connection to whatever your religious belief is, that, it is beyond. It's a blessing to be able to experience your craft and your talent. And I heard students, because I know he teaches as well, you guys, ladies and gentlemen. So go to all his IMG, his social media, and find out information about his classes as well. But you speak the truth. And that's what I've always wanted the Spirit Actor podcast to be about, with our guests to come on and tell the truths to the audience, because there's a lot of people who are naive. There's a lot of people who get misinformation, and you live this. This is your truth. So I just want to thank you.
A Sag, and I understand a Sag. Under the Sag, the moniker is I see. I see. So my third eye has been open since grade school. Oh,
man, I believe it. And, I don't want this to be our first introduction and last introduction. I would love to have you come back on and talk about the show, because we're all going to watch it. Elsa's already gotten her invitation, but that's because we do a show. But I'm getting my invitation after this is over. Stanley, I want to give you a virtual hug with my good arm. And I just want to thank Patrick Riley again for the introduction. You are amazing, and you are a true blessing. And I'm glad that you're legendary, and I'm so glad to have the opportunity to share you with the rest of the world, man. I know it's relationships and everybody supports and loves you, but I just want you to know, over here at the Spirited Actor, we got you, man. We definitely got you. So, but you, audience, sit tight, because we're still blessed and we're so grateful to have Stanley with us. So we'll be back on the Spirited Actor podcast with me, Tracey Moore, for Class in Session.
9/11, 2 decades later is a limited series podcast that looks back 20 years since the attacks of 9/11 and features those who were in the inner sanctum of our country's government.
I didn't know if I was going to have a job. I didn't know. It just seemed like the world was coming to an end. It was that horrific.
9/11, 2 decades later explores the state of our security and asks the question, are we safer today than 20 years ago?
I don't think so. I wish I could answer differently, but I don't.